Hello, Perception Trainers community, and welcome to our latest video where we're going to be talking about failure and admitting how we're wrong. So this is not going to be one of my most popular videos, and the message in this video is most likely going to feel like a punch in the face, and I understand that, and I just want to say that I acknowledge that. And so really this message is not going to be for everyone. Everyone is not going to want to take this in, and I don't think people are all going to be able to take this in. But for anyone out there who is able to take this in, it's going to change your life, and that's why I want to share about it today. Now, before we get into that, I do want to mention that every Monday on perceptiontrainers.com, there is a new post. So if I don't post a video on a Monday, I am still posting a blog post or some other writing or some other exploration on my website. So do check in with Perception Trainers every Monday. And like I say, if you don't see a video here, you can check the website and there will be a blog post. And then the next thing is to, just remember that I have a whole, like if you like this content, if this content is helping you, and you're feeling like you want to take it deeper, I have a 33-day program. I have the Perception Diet book. I have the Your Body is on Your Side program. I've got the Transformation series and the Emotional Mastery series, and all of that is linked down below. And then of course I have my mystery school. So these videos are not all there is. If you're looking for more, there's always more, and that's that. And of course, I think I'm continuing to write stuff. I'm continuing to create things, so there's always going to be more around here. So these videos are not all that there is, just to let you know about that. Okay, so now let's get back to the topic at hand, which is being wrong and failing, and why understanding this is the key to all success in life. So if you have not already done so, I want to suggest that you go back and watch the video that I posted last week on the difference between false beliefs and limiting beliefs, okay? Because to understand that difference is a huge key in creating the life that you want to create for yourself. If you understand if you are able to identify where your blocks in your life are coming from a false belief, so meaning I believe that I'm going to get from point A to point B and this is how it's going to look, and then you go out and do that and it doesn't work how you think it's going to work, that's a false belief, yeah? You thought something was going to work this specific way, it didn't go that way, and then, like I say, for most people they say, well, reality got it wrong, or reality's against me, or blah, 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 instead of understanding, nope, that's a learning opportunity. That's a growth opportunity. I don't actually know how I'm going to get from point A to point B. I thought I knew what the journey looked like. I clearly don't. There's something for me to learn. Or you have a limiting belief, which is essentially a superstition. Yes? This is, I can't have what I want. I have tried to go after what I want. I've tried to be what I want to be. I've tried to go and do my thing. It didn't work out how I wanted it to go. Or I've been rejected, I've been criticized, I've had all these traumatic experiences happen to me, and so now I believe that it is the inherent desire that I have, or the thing that I want to do that's actually harmful, and that, again, reality is against me in an actual antagonistic way. And so these two ways of viewing the world and these two ways of viewing the reality are what hold all of us back from reaching our potential, right? Is that we get afraid to go out and do what we came here to do because, again, reality doesn't work the way that we think that it should. And we have wounds and we have traumas of things happening to us that were traumatic and were painful, and we don't know what to do with it. So now, I want to start this video by saying what I'm about to say, okay? Everything that I'm about to say in this video is not meant to be victim shaming, okay? And if you're hearing it like that, I totally understand. And I want to just address that I understand that what I'm about to say can come across that way, but it isn't. And I'm going to get into why it isn't as we go along. But if you feel that trigger, if you feel like that's what you're hearing when I'm talking, if as you're listening to this video, you're feeling like I'm just telling you that all of your problems are your fault and you can just fix them, keep listening. Okay, so and that's why I'm saying that this video is not going to be popular, because at first glance, what I'm about to say is going to just sound like I'm telling you that all of your problems in your life are your fault. And that is not actually the message, okay? But like I say, at first glance, that is what it's going to sound like. So I just want to preemptively say, if that's what you hear, keep listening, because there's more to it than this, all right? So the biggest thing that I really want to get across is this. Again, we understand, hopefully now we're starting to understand, that in order for life to be life, it has to be continually evolving, growing, changing, and expanding. It has to be turning into something it's never been before. It has to be doing something it's never done before. It has to be expanding into something that's new, different, never having existed before. All right? And when we look at each individual human being, right? But even if we just look at anything that exists in the reality, no two things are exactly alike. That is how reality is proliferating itself. This is why we're having, right, like clones don't survive, because it's really anti-life to do the same thing over and over and over again. That is how we get ourselves on a death cycle, right? When we're not doing something different, if we're not growing, if we're not learning, if we're not evolving, if we're not changing, if we're not expanding, we're dying. Those are the only two states that exist in this reality, is you're either evolving or you're devolving. And for a while, it can be said that the devolution experience is a new enough experience that it keeps you alive. But eventually, right, when we devolve enough, we get to a point where there's no new experience that can be had within our devolution cycle, and we've degraded the tissue and we've degraded ourselves so much that the life force energy, the energy that flows through all of our being, right, the nervous energy, whatever you want to call it, it can be very esoteric, it can be very scientific, whatever it is, the ATP that you run on, the prana of the universe, it's all the same thing. Whatever it is, the tissues of your body, the tissues of your being are not integral enough to continue to conduct that energy, and therefore we die. Yes, there's a split of the consciousness that is inhabiting your cells, and so that's what death is. And now, so we have to understand that in order to be living life successfully, we have to be going out and doing things we've never done before. We have to be in a state of constant evolution. And this is part of the reason why I want to say, like, people who want to tell you that time is an illusion. Sure, it is. However, it's an incredibly useful illusion, because if we didn't have time, we couldn't see how what we're doing, we couldn't learn and grow and observe the effects of our actions. Okay? So again, if there was no time and we did something that was out of alignment with the structure and nature of reality, okay, so we have to understand that nature has a structure to it. Yeah, if reality did not have a structure, if there was not some form of rules or regulations or whatever you want to call it that governs how this reality functions, there could be no reality. Yes? If there are no rules to a game, there cannot be a game. If there's no structure, there's nothing to create with. Okay, so we have to understand that as much as we want to believe, okay, this is part of what gets us into trouble. This is a limiting false belief that we have, that the reality is just a complete projection of our mental state, that there is no reality that is set in stone outside of ourselves, that has a form or a structure, that it's all our projection. If it were really that way, there could be nothing to project onto. Okay? If there's no, right, if we don't have the Play-Doh, right, the structure of Play-Doh, it's not nothing, right? It's not formless, it's not shapeless, it's not completely nothing. Non-existent. Because if it was, you can't do anything with that. Yes? Play-Doh is malleable. We can mold it into lots of different shapes, but it still has a structure. There's still an integrity to it, right? So we got to think of the reality just like that. The reality is the reality that we live in this earth realm, okay, has a structure. There are rules, there are laws, and that is the only way that growth and change and evolution can happen. There has to be a structure to be evolved. So think of it like that. In order for evolution to happen, there has to be something to evolve. There has to be a structure already in place that's being evolved or that's being degraded. Yes? And so when we say that we're either learning, growing, changing, evolving, expanding, or we're dying, what we're really saying is we're taking what the structure of reality is and we're building upon it, or we're taking it apart. And because we are one with the reality, if we are taking it apart, we are taking ourselves apart. Okay, so that's where you create your own reality, that's where that comes in. If you are opposing the foundational structures of reality in your creation, right? So we're all in a state of creation all the time. If you are opposing the foundational structure of reality in your creation, you are going against how reality actually functions. You are breaking yourself against reality. You are breaking yourself down. If you are creating in alignment with how the structure works, you are evolving yourself. Okay? So part of our belief systems, like what our belief systems do to how we interact with the world and how our belief, it can look like it is our belief system and our belief system only that affects the reality, is because, again, our minds are set as a filter, right? We cannot be perceiving all information all at once. So if we are on a track where we think this is how I'm going to do what I'm going to do, your mind is going to filter out everything that's not that, okay? Your belief system is determining what information about the reality you take in and what information about the reality you filter out. That's what your belief system is doing about the reality, okay? So the actual reality, the actual nature and structure of reality does not change based on your belief system, okay? There are lots of people who believe you can just pray over your food and bless it, and you can eat chocolate cake all day long and be healthy. And if you just truly believe that this is good for you, that it will be good for you. And they die of cancer, okay? They truly believed it. But you cannot oppose the structure of reality, how it actually functions. The reality is not going to change based on your belief system. But reality for you, for a period of time, may appear as though it is, okay? You might have positive, beneficial body reactions to eating cake for a little while based on your belief system, because you're going to be filtering out the symptoms of disease. You're going to be filtering out the things that aren't actually working for you. You will actually cognitive bias, yes? What the true reality is telling you in order to continue to believe what you want to believe. And that's why our belief system has such a powerful effect on the reality that we experience, is because our belief systems are filtering information so that when something comes up that is out of alignment with our belief system, we either don't see it or we figure out some way of explaining it away, but we don't take it in, okay? So this is what's leading us into where I'm going with this video, okay? Is that the root of suffering, yes, is that we're opposing reality. That's really what it is. We're trying to create. We're trying to be what we want to be. We have desire, right? And that desire, all of us have the desire to live. We all just have desire in general, right? And these desires are driving us to do that evolution, okay? Our desires are driving us to figure out how the reality works, what the actual structure and nature of reality is right now, and then what we want to create on top of that, okay? So when we're truly living a creative, co-creative life, we should be constantly running up against what we don't already know about the reality. Our desire should be always pushing us to a place we don't know how to inhabit, a place we don't know how to get to, a thing we don't know how to create. Why? Because that's evolution. Okay? So, again, the only way that evolution can happen is if we understand the structure of what already exists, and then we build something new on top of that. That's what growth is. That is life. Life is taking the structure of what already is and building something on top of it. Building something on top of it, building something on top of it. Expanding what already is. Okay? We cannot create something out of nothing, and nothing goes anywhere. We never actually get rid of anything. It devolves and then recycles and then regenerates into something new, or it evolves and just keeps becoming something new. But either way, the net result is it's gonna evolve. So if you're not going with the evolution, if you're not understanding the structure of what already exists and building upon it something new, you will degrade until your spirit is liberated from your body. Your cells and tissues go back to the earth, your spirit goes back to the ethers, and then you get reset and you come back and you do it again in order to try and evolve. And so that devolution experience was a new experience to a degree, but because it was a new experience in opposition to how the reality functions, this is how we kill ourselves. Yes? Is that we're constantly pushing our version of what reality should be, what we think reality should be. We keep trying to create, live, right? So understanding that everything that we do is a creation. Breathing is a creation. Eating is a creation. Everything you do, it's not just your job, it's not just your body, it's not just your relationship, it's every single thing in your life is a creation. And every single thing that you do in your life is either going with the structure of reality and therefore evolving you, or it's going against the structure of reality, which is degrading you. Okay? So as we have desire, what our desire is actually secretly, foundationally doing is it's driving our consciousness to see something about the reality we've never seen before. That's really what the root is of our desire, okay? Because again, in order to evolve, we have to understand what already is. In order to be life, we have to be growing, learning, evolving, and changing. In order to learn, evolve, change, grow, and expand, we have to know what is. We have to understand the foundation of what already exists, and then we have to understand how that works, and then we unite that with what we want to create, and those two things put together give us the ability to create the thing we want to create. So again, it's understanding how reality functions. That is the biggest key to being able to create what you want to create. And you don't already know how the reality functions. This, again, is, I think, the point of human consciousness, is each individual is coming to this reality with an individual desire, a completely unique path, a completely unique vantage point, right? What you have seen about the reality, all the little pieces of the reality that you have seen, everything that you've filtered out, everything that you've experienced is completely unique to you. And the drive that you have to be, do, and create what you want to be, do, and create is completely unique to you, which is going to drive your consciousness, your little piece of the all that is, to view reality and the structure of reality in a way that only you can view it. So you're adding to consciousness itself, because we're all connected, it's all connected, yes? Through your vantage point. It's all being fed back to the hyperbrain, if you want to think about it that way, right? It's all, like, it's not really being fed back, like there isn't like an actual disconnect, but it's your little bit of consciousness, your little vantage point is the only one that can see reality the way that you can see it. That then informs all of consciousness about itself, right? So the point of life, the point of consciousness is to learn about itself, meaning we don't already know. We don't already know everything there is to know about ourselves as consciousness. Okay, so that's really important as we move along. Consciousness doesn't already know everything about itself. We are a part of the process of figuring it out, okay, through our individual perspectives. And then at the same time, because life is life and it needs to be constantly growing, learning, evolving, changing, and expanding, there's always something new for consciousness to discover about itself, right? So long as we're creating new things, so long as we have a desire to build something new, yes, there's always going to be the next thing that can be created, and therefore the next thing about the reality that the reality can learn about itself, that consciousness can learn about itself. So it's this continual thing that's happening. God doesn't already know everything about God's self because God hasn't created itself yet, because it's infinite. You see what I'm saying here? Is like, so again, now understanding that every creation, right? So we understand something fundamental about the structure and nature of reality. We match that with our desire. We create something new. So just to give a practical example, the airplane. Yes? There was flight. Birds flew. Humans wanted to fly. We couldn't do it. We flapped our arms. We jumped off a cliff. It didn't work. We learned about gravity. We learned about aerodynamics, right? We jumped off a cliff and we fell to the ground. So we could have said, it doesn't work. We're not going to be able to fly. We failed. Yeah? We did what all the other winged creatures do. It didn't work, so humans can't fly. We didn't do that. The Wright brothers studied aerodynamics. They studied gravity. So what does this mean? They were learning things about the structure of reality, how the reality actually functions. So that was the thing they did first. And then on top of that, they built the airplane. They took what the structure of the reality already was, and they added something new to it. They developed the airplane, which is an expansion. And then that has been the foundation for all of the incredible advancements we've had, the technological advancements we've had in humans taking flight. Yes? That first airplane then created the next airplane, created the next airplane, created the next airplane. And then, right, showed us how we could get into space, how we, like, it turned into this whole big thing. And so, right, that desire for human flight that turned into the airplane was just the foundation for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So again, as we have these desires and as we take the information of how the reality actually functions, we are just creating the foundation for the next thing that reality is going to expand into. Okay? So there wasn't an airplane before. It wasn't like we could look in the book, or reality itself, consciousness itself, already knew how to do that, how to have humans fly. It didn't. We figured that out through our individual perspective, yes, united with the foundations of how the reality already functioned, and then creating something new. So this is why we have to say that in our lives, if we're truly on a life-generating path, we should constantly be bumping up against, I don't know how I'm going to create what I want to create. I thought things were going to go this way and they didn't. Things happened that I didn't want to happen, or that were painful, or that were traumatic, and none of that is wrong. Okay, so where I'm going with this is that if you are suffering, okay, if you are suffering in your life, it means you have a desire to do something, to be something, to create something. And you either believe that you can't do it because the reality is stopping you, or that to pursue it is literally dangerous for your health, right? You have a false belief and you have limiting beliefs. And what that really means is, okay, is that you are wrong. And that's really the bottom line. If you have a desire to create something and you haven't been able to create it, you're wrong. You don't know how the reality functions. There's something missing. Whatever theory that you have of how you're going to create what you want to create, how you're going to be what you want to be, is incorrect. You're failing. Yes? You've gone to try to do what you wanted to do to create some certain result, and it didn't work. And it even, right, it could even be less kind of straightforward than that. It literally could be like, you don't know what your purpose is, you don't know, you hate yourself, you think there's something wrong with you, your body is broken, all of these things. What this is showing you is that wherever in your life you are suffering, this means there is something for you to learn about the nature and structure of reality that you don't already know, that you need to know to become who you want to become. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example from my own life. I was, like I said, I've told you this many times, I was born in a very sick body. Yeah, there was lots of things wrong with my body, and my body kept getting worse and worse and worse as I was growing up. And there were many times where, okay, and so here's the other thing that I want to say, is that reality does not give us points for effort. And there is no participation mark in life. Doing your best isn't it. Again, like I say, if you're really truly on a life generating path, you're going to be doing your best all the time. You're going to be trying your best, right? You're going to be doing what you can do to create what you want to create, to be who you want to be, to heal your body, to heal your mind, to heal your traumas, to become this person that you want to become. And your best is not going to be good enough. Your beliefs about what is going to work are going to be wrong. You are going to fail. And it is your fault. Okay? So part of this is that we start to take the responsibility on that if we're suffering, it is our fault. Now, why though? Why do we want to take on the idea that if we're suffering, that a part of it is our fault? Because if we don't take on the idea that if we're suffering, at least part of it is our fault. I'm not going to say that all suffering is 100% everyone's fault, okay? There are definitely situations, yeah, where we're being victimized, and we're like children are being victimized by their parents. Women are being beaten by abusive husbands. People are in poverty that they were born into. That kind of suffering, yes, but I'm going to get into this a little bit. That kind of suffering, again, is being caused by the privileged people of our world also being in suffering and not learning, okay? And so what I'm saying is, if you're watching this video and you're not in poverty and you have like a pretty normal standard American Western life, you are in a position where you need to take responsibility for your own suffering and see that a lot of it could be your fault, okay? And now, instead of looking at it as fault, look at it as it is your ignorance. And because, again, like I'm going to say, right, if it's not, if you are 100% right about how you're supposed to create what you want to create, how you're supposed to live how you want to live, because that's what feels satisfying, that's how we get out of suffering, is we start to live in alignment with how life actually works, creating what we want to be creating, living our purpose, which is not just a job, which is not just a relationship or whatever. It's an overarching living in alignment with just taking in everything that's coming in for you in your reality and saying, okay, what is this here to teach me? And how is this here to evolve me? Yeah, that everything that comes into your reality is there to evolve you. Yes? So that is what it feels like to not be suffering. So we might not be happy all the time. We're not going to be successful all the time. We're going to be failing more often than not. We're going to be not hitting the mark more often than not. But if we have the mindset, the success mindset, which is that everything is information that I don't already know that I need to know in order to create what I want to create. And failing is the best thing ever. And being wrong is the best thing ever, because that's showing me, you see where I'm going with this? If you're wrong, that means there's hope. If you're wrong about how you're going to create what you want to create, if you're wrong, if your suffering is your fault, that means you have the power to change it. That you can learn something new, that you can expand into something you don't already know, that you can learn something you don't already know, like I say, and that you can shift how you're going about trying to create what you're trying to create that will actually be successful. If you're right, if none of your suffering is your fault because you're totally in alignment with how reality works and it's all just completely external circumstance, that's actual hopelessness. Okay? So, right? Because if you're right and how you think it's going to work is how it works, and you're going about it and it's not working, that means there is no hope. That means what you want is impossible. Yes? And so this is why I wanted to say this is a tough pill to swallow at first. To hear I'm suffering, I'm wrong about reality. And part of it is because I'm not learning. I'm refusing to learn how things actually work. It's my belief system that's filtering out the true information, right? It's myself telling myself these stories that I'm right, or that I'm doing my best and I should be getting the results that I want, or that my best is good enough, that I shouldn't have to change, I shouldn't have to blame myself, I shouldn't have to look for where, if I'm doing something and not getting the results that I'm wanting, that it's my fault. If you're stuck in that, you are stuck. You are in a place where you don't understand how the reality works, otherwise you would have what you want, right? That's what we need to understand. How do I know if I know how the reality works? When you go out to create something, you go it and you are successful. You say, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, and you get the result that you're looking for. If that's not happening, then you're wrong. There's something for you to learn. You're failing. And that can be the best thing ever, okay? Because when we have the correct mindset, wherever we're failing, wherever we're suffering the most, that is where the most information that we need is. So this is why, again, bypassing negative emotions, bypassing or not looking at the things that are not working in our lives, just positive thinking, all this stuff is bullshit. Because it's distracting you from learning what you need to learn about the actual reality, right? If you're failing to achieve your goal, there's something you need to learn. You're not right. And that's good. That's freedom. That means you can learn something, that there is hope for you, right? So that's what I'm saying. To believe that you're right and that you're just not getting the results that you want, even though you're right. And if, like I say, if that's true, then it's hopeless. You can't have the results that you want. If how you're going about it is the right way, if your best is the best, and it's not giving you the results that you want, that means what you want is impossible. So would you not rather believe that you're wrong? So, and that's what I was going to say, is that the biggest misconception we have as a humanity is that being wrong is the worst thing ever. That to admit where we're wrong is the worst thing ever. That to own and say, I'm wrong, or I'm creating my suffering and I don't know how, I'm not even aware of how I'm doing that. To not take responsibility, right? This is the downfall of humanity. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you my personal story. I was born in a sick body. My body was really sick. And I have done so many different things, right? I have done so many different diets, so many different healing modalities, so many different whatevers. And again, I want to say, right? Every diet that I did, every healing modality that I took on, every doctor that I went to, whatever, anything that I tried, number one, I fully believed that it was the answer. Okay, so belief, again, contradicting reality, reality still won out. Every single time I did something that I thought was the right thing, I was doing my absolute best with what I had, right? With the information that I had, I thought I was doing the right thing, the best thing. Every time, because like, of course, why would I do anything that I didn't think was the best thing? And everyone should take this. You are doing what you think is the best thing, right? And if it's not getting you the results that you want, you have to say, okay, my best is not good enough. It doesn't matter how much I believe that I'm right. It doesn't matter how much evidence I have, how many studies there are. It doesn't matter what the consensus reality tells me, because that's, again, so many of us are relying on what everyone else is saying instead of the actual results we're getting in reality. And so if we start to really see that, like, okay, it really doesn't matter if I'm trying my hardest and doing my best and doing everything that I know to do right now, and that should be good enough. It isn't. If it isn't, it isn't. If it's opposing the structure, it's opposing the structure. If it's not getting you closer to the results that you want, you're wrong. And there's something for you to learn. And so that's what I did every time, is that I would try a diet, I would try a thing, and if it didn't give me the results that I wanted, I didn't care who told me the information. I didn't care how much I respected that person. I didn't care how many studies were backing it up. I didn't care. If it wasn't getting me the results, I said, okay, I'm wrong. This is wrong. This is not the right answer. Try something different. And I did that over and over and over again until I started to find a thing that actually did work. I started to actually get results, and it was not hard to know if I was on the right path or not. Okay? I was either healing or I was getting worse. And there really isn't so much of a gray area in that. And so again, right, like I had to get over my own cognitive bias of what I wanted healing to look like. But it was clear, right? Once you start to really learn from reality and not rely on consensus reality, you don't wonder anymore if you're on the right path. And this is the kindness in why we don't want the reality to give us participation trophies. We don't want to get points for trying our best if our best is taking us in the wrong direction. Okay? So this can feel harsh, but if you're trying your best and doing your best and you feel like reality is just withholding from you, like you're like, I am just doing my best. I'm doing what I think I should be doing and it's not working and I'm being a good person and I'm just getting bad results and like, why is the reality punishing me? Because again, there's a structure to how reality functions. And if you're suffering, you're opposing it. So you don't want the reality to give you a boost. Yeah, to give you a false sense of pleasure or result when you're heading down the wrong path. Because there is a wrong path and there is a right path. And this is, again, people don't want to believe this because it feels like it's so hard to understand the reality. We feel like it's just so confusing and there's all these opinions and this person says this and this person says that and da-da-da-da-da. And that's, again, why we have to stop looking at consensus reality. It's not about what everyone else is saying. It's not about what your friends are saying or what studies are saying or what science is saying or it's not to say that any of these things are wrong, but you always have to test it on yourself. Is it actually getting you the results it's saying it's going to give you? And are you being biased, right? So the real point of this video, okay, is that if you're suffering, you're wrong. You're wrong about something. You don't know how the reality works. And you're suffering because you want to create something, you want to do something, you want to be something, you want to expand to something, you want to heal, you want to grow, you want to change, and you're doing it in a way that's opposing the structure of the reality. You don't know how the reality works sufficiently enough to create something that you want on top of it, okay? So whatever it is that you want to create is the evolution of reality. And what that's drawing you to is to first understand how the reality works in a way that you don't right now. So that's why we suffer, because we're opposing reality. We're opposing a reality we don't already understand. So if we can now just start to say, okay, it's fine that I'm wrong because I'm not supposed to already know this. This is the big key. You aren't supposed to already know what you don't know. It's your desire that leads you to what you don't know. And you're supposed to not know. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to make 99 light bulbs that don't work before you make the 100th that does. Because every single time you make a wrong light bulb, you learn something about the reality. So this is what you need to understand, is that all of your failures, if you really feel like I've never found my purpose, I've never been able to be successful, I've never been able to create the life I want, I'm just hopeless and all this stuff, that is all information that you need. Every single one of your failures has been a success if you allow yourself to learn from it. If you allow yourself to say, no, that was information that I needed. That was information about the reality that I don't already have. It's more complex than I ever thought. I thought I was going to get to my desire through this, this, and this. That wasn't it. Because what actually happened when I did that was something totally different. So what happened? What was that? Why did this person abuse me? Why did this person do this to me? What did I learn from that? okay? And again, we don't have to do this. We can stay in victim mode all we want for the rest of life, but it's never going to lead to freedom. It's never going to lead you to where you want to go. It's never going to lead you to who you want to be. Because this is why I'm saying, I know this can sound like victim shaming. Like, you're already suffering. You're already trying your best. You're doing everything you can. You feel like the reality is against you. If you can start to say, okay, it's not my fault that I'm suffering, in the sense that I should have known, I should already know, and I just am fucking it up. No. You say, okay, I am like everyone else. I am consciousness. I don't know myself yet. My desire is drawing me to learn something about myself, the reality. So you are one with reality that I don't already know. That is the point of my desire. I am supposed to fail at trying to create my desire. That's how I learn. That's the only way that I'm going to be stimulated to go and learn something new about the reality, is that I have a desire. Yes? And in order to learn, I'm going to have to be wrong. I'm going to go about trying to create what I think I want to create, the way I think it's going to go, and I'm going to fail. Because that's how consciousness is expanding itself. It's going into unknown territory. Everything that you want, everything that you are to become is unknown territory at this point. We don't know. You don't know how it's supposed to go. You don't know how it's going to go. Reality doesn't even know, because it hasn't seen itself through your perspective and created what you wanted to create yet. So it is your job to learn from your failures. It is your job to learn from your suffering. It is your job to say, life is not being mean to me that I'm suffering. Life is being good to me that I'm suffering. If I'm suffering, that's showing me where I'm breaking myself against reality. And I want to know that. Because if I didn't know that, if I wasn't suffering, if I was being given brownie points, I would be destroying myself, breaking myself against reality, not knowing it, thinking I'm getting to where I want to go, and then I die and I don't know why. Or I didn't get what I wanted and I don't know why. The fact that it's painful along the way is letting you know, don't keep going this direction. That is not the answer. And you want that, right? It would not be a kindness for you to be in a state of bliss when you're not actually heading in the direction of learning what you need to learn about the reality so that you can create what you want to create. So your suffering is your key. Your suffering is the best thing that's ever happened to you. Your suffering is showing you where you don't know what you don't know. It's okay that you don't know what you don't know, because you're not supposed to know it. You're supposed to learn it. That's the whole point of why you're here. You don't already know, you're here to learn. Your desire is here to bring you. So now we start to say, okay, everywhere I'm failing, everywhere I'm trying my best, everywhere whatever, I accept and I embrace that I am failing and I'm sucking at this. I'm suffering because I'm wrong. I'm not seeing what the truth is. And if we can get to that place, that is what true surrender is. You're not giving up. Surrender is not, well, I don't know, blah, blah. Surrender is, okay, I tried it my way. I don't know. What am I not seeing? Right? And this opens your consciousness, right? So when you're in a state of love, that's what this is. You're saying, I don't know. I'm wrong. My suffering is at least in part due to me. And I want that to be true so that I actually have some power to change it. Because if it's absolutely nothing to do with me, if it's absolutely, I'm completely correct and the reality is just against me, it's impossible, then you're stuck suffering. That is a far worse fate, if you really think about it. To not be able to admit that you're wrong, to not be able to say that your best isn't good enough, to not be able to say what I'm doing isn't working and it's because I'm wrong. That means that you can't have what you want. That means what you want is impossible. That's hopelessness. So to own that you're making the mistake and that there is something that you can do is hope. So that's the paradox, right? To blame yourself lovingly is the way forward. So we say, okay, where am I wrong? What am I not seeing? And then because we're not making ourselves bad that we're wrong, this is the huge key. You're not supposed to already know. So don't make yourself bad for not knowing. If you can do that, if you can say, okay, I just don't know. I failed. I fucked it up. I didn't know. And that's okay. I still love myself. I'm not a fuck up. It's not wrong that I failed. That's the whole point of being a human. I'm not getting what I want because I'm wrong, and that's good. In that, you're going to relax enough to be able to start to see, okay, well, this isn't working. When I do this, it gives me this result. So maybe I'm going to try this. And then that gives me that result. And if that's not closer, then I'll try this. Right? And when we feel safe, because we're loving ourselves, we'll be willing to try different things, willing to do different things. We'll make the next light bulb and the next light bulb and the next light bulb and the next bulb. But when we're blaming ourselves in the shame way, like, oh man, I fucked this up, I'm so wrong, it's so bad, you're going to hold on to what you're doing because you're going to want to prove that it's right. You're going to want to prove that it's right. And so long as you're in a state where you're wanting to prove that you're right, or you're just so scared to try anything new, you need to love yourself. You need to say, it's okay that I'm failing. It's okay that I'm failing. The reality isn't against me. The reality is for me. That's why it's letting me suffer. And so this is how we need to embrace this. We embrace ourselves. We embrace the failing. We embrace that if we're living our purpose, it's going to be a constant state of going after things we don't know how we're going to do it. We're going to be constantly failing. I'm failing more than I'm succeeding in my life all the time. And that's why my life is so successful. And I have technically created everything I've ever wanted to create in my life. Because I'm really good at failing. I'm really good at admitting if I'm suffering, it's because there's something wrong with what I'm doing. I still love myself and I'm willing to change. But if I'm not getting the results that I want, I'm wrong. I'm wrong about how I think I'm going to get there. And I need to learn something new. And I need to observe the actual effects of what my actions are doing. Don't look at the consensus reality. Don't look at whatever other people. Just look at the effects. Look at the reality. When I eat this, this happens. When I do this, this happens. When I say this, this happens. When I think this, this happens. Why? That's what we need to be doing. Okay? So admitting that you're wrong and that there's something for you to learn is the only way forward. As long as you do it in a loving way. Because you're going to always be learning something new about the reality you don't already know, and then you're going to expand it. And then that's going to be the foundation for the next thing that you're going to learn about the reality that you don't already know, and then you're going to expand it. That's what your desire is there to do. Okay? So if you have questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.